Right, good morning team. It is Friday morning and we're ready to go. So we've got a bit of a mixed bag workout today. We're going to go through a few different things, kind of a loose plan, but what we're going to do is get warmed up and get in. So we're going to work on certain things for a little while and then move on to the next thing. If that's enough of an idea as what's coming up, that'll do. So we're going to get warmed up. We're going to start without the weights, just in squat position. We're going to stand nice and tall, shoulders down, just take a few breaths here. Allowing the shoulders to soften. Alright, so we're going to get warmed up with a squat. So we're going to go down into the squat and all the way back up. Dead easy, just halfway down and all the way up. So building into this movement, aware of what the squat movement feels like. Bending at the knees, pushing back with the hips. There. So a squat movement. Alright, in contrast to a deadlift, which is coming up shortly. So aware that this version is the squat. Alright, so bending the knees, going into that squat. Easy. Nice. Alright, deepen that squat. Good. Go on then, let's add that press at the top. So squat to press movement. Slowing down that movement. Anticipating that squat. Anticipating that high reach. Feeling that strength and power through the legs. Progressively getting warmed up into that movement. Into that depth of the squat. Nice. Alright, one more. And up. Alright, now take it into a deadlift. So we're set up similar, feet parallel, but now we're going to hinge forwards from the waist and back up. Again, starting shallow. So hinging forwards from the waist. So it's going to feel like you're not getting as much depth to the movement. That movement comes from the waist, hinging forwards. If you had a barbell, it would be coming down in front of the shins. The back stays straight. Good. Alright, so perhaps limited by the amount of flexibility you have through the hamstrings or the confidence through that lower back. Alright, but feel the difference between this and a squat. So deadlift. Good, last few repetitions. And up. Alright, grab your hand weights. Alright, you're going to take this back to a squat, adding in that press with the dumbbells. When you're down into the squat, press high at the top. Alright, I'm just going to get this going, grab your weights. As soon as you've got them, squat to press with the dumbbells. Good, alright, everybody moving, nice. Alright, good. Alright, so find that full depth to the squat then, so your full range of movement, 10 reps with me, down, push up for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Good. Alright, same thing with the hand weights, but with deadlift. Alright, so shoulders back, soften down the back, feel that neutrality. Neutrality? What a stupid word. Feel that the spine is in neutral. We're going to hinge forwards from the waist, keeping that neutral spine. There. And then power back up to standing. But yeah, feel how the alignment of the back doesn't change. Hinging from the hips, from the waist. So deadlift, strengthening through the hamstrings, strengthening through that posterior chain, into the glutes, through the lower back. Right, 10 reps, power up for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Good. Alright, kick that out. Alright, quick standing hamstring stretch. Dig the heel forwards with 1 foot. Push the hips back. Reaching down towards the toes. Gently pulling the toes up. Right, so gentle into this stretch. Find it sometimes tricky to stretch the hamstrings standing like this compared to sat down on the floor. So see if you can find the, the gentleness of approach to that stretch, as in you take it to the point of stretch. Breathe into it and see if you can find some release. So feeling that stretch through the back of that leg. 3, 2, 1, bring that up. Other side, dig the heel, hinge forwards from the waist, hips back, stretch through the back of that leg, reaching forwards with the opposite arm. Aware of how the body is held. Three, 2, 1, and up. All right, okay, good. Right then, take this into a static lunge for me. So we step back 1 foot, back up straight, static lunge here. Bring the shoulders back, soften them down. Feel that uprightness of posture. Okay, static lunges, starting shallow. Down and up. Good. I definitely felt the legs after going through that drop set on Wednesday. Okay, I can feel that residual fatigue in the legs. Down and up, so increasing that range of movement to your full range of movement. Dropping that back knee down towards the floor. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Switch legs, step back, find that posture, shoulders down. There, pelvis is level. Down and up with that lunge. Good, increasing that range of movement. That knee comes down towards the floor. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Bring that up, right, switch legs again. This time, you're gonna go over to the side. So we step out to the side and back up. Same leg, steps out to the side and back up. Always seem to do this sort of thing with the hands, bringing it together. For me, that just somehow balances that movement. So find this side lunge. So we step out to the side, hips go back. You've just been doing squats, so it's similar to a squat movement this leg is coming into. Keeping the body weight over this standing leg. There. Find your range of movement. Find your way of doing this. If that's a real struggle to step out wide, you can definitely do this stepping out. It's just like a squat, except keeping the weight over this leg. So there's a squat, it's just like that, keeping the weight over this leg. If you can step out really wide. There. All right, find your movement. Making sure it's aligned. Knees in line with toes. Knees behind toes. Spine in neutral. Oh, feel that leg working. 3 more. 3, 2, and 1, and up. Oh, yikes, that is a worker of an exercise. Okay, other side, set up. Take a few reps to find that movement. Right, making sure that this movement feels helpful as it's strengthening that pushing part of the leg. It's strengthening a strong movement pattern, as opposed to reinforcing, you know what I'm saying. All right, you're deepening that movement as far as you can. Oh, that's horrible, isn't it? 3 more. 3, 2, and 1. Good. All right, kick that out. All right, take this into the leaning quad stretch here. So now stretching the front of the leg here. Knees stay together. Standing tall. I can actually bring that stretch on just by standing taller, leveling off the hips and drawing that knee close to the other one. I can feel that stretch through the top here. Breathe into it. Use that breath cycle to release. Whew. All right, good. And if you feel you can pull that foot in towards you a little bit more. Good. All right, and switch sides. Leaning in, finding your balance, shoulders down. Not sure you can see it, but I've just realised I've got a box of Hebridean pink gin on my living room floor. It's the only furnishing I have in the living room. Bottles of Tyree gin. Product placement. 3, 2, 1, and down. All right, good stuff. All right, last one for the legs. We're going to go into the lower legs. So we're going to be leaning in again. We're going to be leaning in towards that calf stretch position. All right, finding that straightness of the posture. Heels are down and then it's straight all the way through the legs and through the torso. Feet parallel. All right, so feel the alignment of that position. And then as we go into that calf raise, that heel lift, nothing else changes. We're lifting up as one and then lower down with control. There. All right, so feel that symmetry of movement, that symmetry of effort. Working into that Achilles, working into that lower leg. Feeling that articulation of the ankle. Alright, so when you're working that lower leg, you don't need to be really pushing it right through to the limits of fatigue. It's more like building functionality through that ankle, through that Achilles. That functionality of the musculature in the joint. Good. Building into that slight burn that's creeping in. Alright, take it back to that stretch, so heels come down now. Relax any tension in that lower leg. And then from there, just paddle out through the ankles. Alright, so bring some movement and some circulation. Alright, and then heels come back down. Alright, same thing, but we're just going to soften through the knees. Alright, so we're in here, soften through the knees. And then lifting up onto the balls of the feet and lowering back down. Alright, so gently up, gently down. Again, working into that articulation of the ankle. The rest of the body stays still here, doesn't it? Always feel a little bit silly doing this. This is working into different muscles within that lower leg. Yeah, I'm working into the small muscles in the foot, the articulation of all those joints within the foot. Alright, and one more, and then heels down, re-lengthen the legs back to that stretch position, and then perhaps again paddling out through the legs. Alright, nice. Okay, up we get, and pick that out. Good. All right, team, let's take this down onto the floor. All right, so find your mat. You're going to take this down onto the floor. Okay. All right, we're going to take this into kneeling. Find your dumbbells, make sure they're handy. All right, so we're in here. Kneeling hip flexor first. Good. All right, bring that uprightness to the torso, that uprightness to the posture. Here, reach up with whichever side the leg is back. Need to find a better way of saying that. Good, okay, feel that nice openness through the torso. Right, you're going to do the same thing but using some resistance. So take that hand weight, bring it up here into shoulder press position, reset your alignment, shoulders level, hip flexor open, reach high and back, reach high and back. Thinking about exaggerating that expansion, that lengthening. As if that weight is being drawn upwards towards the ceiling. Thinking about the posture that you want to reinforce. A trophy lift, I seem to remember calling this exercise way back. There it is. Good. Nice. Feel that openness increasing through the hip. Lovely. Last one. Up and down. Good. All right, switch knees. Hip flexor stretch on the other side. Feel that stretch first. Add that reach. Alright, so that's pretty much the position that you're going up to. Find your hand weight. Reset the stretch. Arm in start position. Shoulders leveled. And then find that movement. Alright, so team, going at a slightly gentler pace this morning. Alright, so hopefully just giving you time to refocus through these movements without the timer going off, without rushing on to the next. Perhaps trying to feel what the movement is achieving, what it's reinforcing, how it's working the body, how it's strengthening those core movements of push or pull, lift, reach, lengthen. Good. One more. And then settling down. All right. So from lift, reach, lengthen, all of those. Let's go on to hold. So we're going to go down into a low plank position. All right, so we've got the mat in front of us, down onto the forearms. All right, set up here. So thinking about the plank position you're about to hold, using the strength of the abs, keeping the spine neutral. We can step back or bring the knees back. So either on the toes or on the knees. Finding low plank position. Okay. Good, so hold. Good. All right, so confident in this position. Breathe into it, relax the tensions that don't need to be there. And feel the work through the muscles that do need to be switched on. Nice. All right, holding it here for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And knees come back down. Perhaps dropping the hips over heels, stretching the arms out into child's pose. Alright, good, quick stretch here before coming back up into box shape. Alright, refinding box shape, so staying on the mat here, hands below shoulders, settling the shoulder blades down, balanced on those 4 points of contact with the floor. Alright, we're going to take one of them away and extend one leg, so extend one leg to that horizontal. Alright, resettle the shoulders, re-lengthen the arms, good. Okay, so whichever leg is lengthened, extend the opposite arm. Good, settling into that hold. Lengthening through the neck. Bringing your awareness as to how you're holding the whole body. So even though you're working to hold this position, there's a sense of almost softening as well. Softening through to that lengthened alignment. Confident in the strength of those core muscles. Alright, bring the hand back down. Sweep that knee back in and re-find alignment. Good. Alright, resettle the shoulders down the back, extend the other leg. Hold it here at the horizontal. Feel that stability through that midsection and through the hip. Opposite arm lengthens. Good. Soften through to the length of that arm and the length of that leg. Nice, and then the hand comes back down. The knee comes back through. Lovely. Okay, nice. All right, so back to the other leg. Extend to the horizontal. Both hands can stay on the floor at the moment. Nice. All right, we're going to do side sweepers. So we're going to sweep this leg out to the side, touch down with the toes, and then sweep it back to the horizontal. All right, so without anything else changing, or with as little change as possible, see if you can find that sweeping movement of the leg, touching down out to the side, and then lift back up to the horizontal. Notice how the shoulders want to lift up, but we resettle them down. Just trying to isolate that movement from the hip. So not as easy as it might appear to be, just floating that leg out to the side, touching down and then bringing it back up. Alright, one more, but on this one, reach out to the side and then leave it there, toes down. Allow that foot just to flatten on the floor a little. Find that balance now between those 4 points of contact with the floor. It's got one leg lengthened out to the side, whichever side that is. Now open up through that arm into a nice broad rotation. Breathe into that. Feel that nice expansiveness through the torso. Good. Lovely. Okay, the hand comes back in. The knee comes back through into box shape. Realign and lengthen that other side. Leg lengthens to the horizontal. Alright, just shuffle those hands around if you need to. There's your balance point. Okay, sweepers out to the side, touch down. Bring that right back through. Yeah, and as ever, if this feels unhelpful to you for whatever reason, if it just doesn't feel right, you could change this, maybe go knee, elbow, working on the mobility of that hip. So this is working into unrestricted movements through the hip, strengthened movements, functionality of that musculature and that joint. Good. All right, one more, and then hold that leg out to the side, flatten the foot, soften into that, refine that alignment, and then when you're ready, open up through that side. Good, and again, find that broadness through the chest, through the shoulders, through the length of the arm. Good. All right, and then the hand sweeps back through, the knee comes back in, and we're back into box shape. All right, let's roll this over onto your back. So final position here, rolling over onto the back. All right, just softening into the mat. All right, so squats, lunges, deadlifts, calf raises, plank, shoulder press. Okay, let's finish off here, reworking into that midsection. Knees come up to tabletop. All right, feel the spine is still in neutral. Arms come up to vertical. Nice, all right, hold the arms still. One leg lowers to the horizontal but without touching the floor. Right, bring it back up. Right, nothing else changes. The spine is in neutral, the shoulders are down, the pelvis is in its alignment with the rest of the torso. Lengthening the leg to the horizontal, nothing else changes. And then bring it back up. Right, do that a few times. Aware that you can control that movement. You can isolate that movement. You're aware of the muscles that are switching on in that midsection to support, stabilize, allowing that limb to move. Right, keep that going with the legs, but now extend the opposite arm to the horizontal. Feel those cogs slowly turning in that part of the brain that controls coordination. bring your awareness to that whole movement. Oh. Alright, so I find when you bring your complete awareness to how you're moving, it doesn't need to be any harder. We don't need to add resistance. You don't even need to lengthen the legs. Oh, we can make it sufficiently challenging. Just like this. Good. Have we made that sufficiently challenging yet? Oh, one more. And then lower it all down, feet flat on the floor. Nice. All right, feet flat on the floor. Lift up the hips into that bridge position. Posterior chain once again. Breathe, so hip bridge. Feeling that stretch through the hip flexors here. All right, let's start halfway lower and re-lift all the way up. Halfway lower and re-lift. Alright, so again, feeling that functionality of that musculature around the hips. Alright, lift up and hold. There. Alright, kick up to the ceiling. Lengthening that leg, that ability to lengthen the leg. Holding the hips high. Lowering the foot down, other side. Lift up. Touching down. Alternating sides. Good. One more each side. Kick up, lower down, kick up, and lower down. Release back down. Oh, and relax. Perhaps stretch the arms up above the head. Breathe. Yeah, just softening through the length of the arms there. Taking a few breaths, just allowing yourselves to slow back down. So a selection of movements there this morning, unrushed going through them. Some more challenging than others, some perhaps feeling more restrictive than others, but hopefully some feeling a really pleasant kind of freedom of movement and an awareness of the strength that we do have. And yes, some of them are going to be more challenging and some are going to feel perhaps slightly out of reach. But there's movements that we do feel strong in, and movements that are available to us. So perhaps being grateful for those things that we are able to do and the strengths that we do have. All right, when you're ready, you can wind yourself back up into sitting and back up onto your feet. I have no idea what time it is. 8:01. All right, good timing, team. All right, we'll finish there. I'll leave you to get on with your day, live class, and whenever you're doing this recording. It is Friday, so you're going into the weekend. Amazing. Right, I will see you on the other side. It'll be Monday morning, 7:30 for the live class. Excellent. Hope the sun is shining where you are. I will see you on Monday. All right, good job, team. See you then.